On September 8, 2025, Kathmandu woke to its usual sounds. Temple bells, traffic, street vendors, but beneath the routine, frustration simmered. Months of broken promises, rising prices, and government inaction had left people exhausted. That morning, a small group of students gathered at Madigar Mandala, demanding accountability. Their numbers swelled as office workers, shopkeepers, and homemakers joined, united by a corruption scandal that was just the final straw. The city's main roads became rivers of protest, chants for justice echoing off ancient temples and modern buildings. Police watched warily, but the crowd pressed on, fueled by a rare sense of unity. As dusk fell, the protests intensified, the city's usual chaos replaced by a powerful collective voice. Families watched the news, torn between pride and anxiety, knowing this was just the beginning. The government's calls for calm rang hollow, the people's roar could no longer be ignored. For a few hours, Kathmandu belonged to its people, determined to be heard. The first day ended peacefully, but tension hung in the air. The city braced for what would come next. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test Nepal's fragile peace. September 9th dawned with the city in upheaval. Protesters' demands, resignation of corrupt officials, transparent governance, economic reforms, were now shouted from every corner. The movement spread rapidly, paralyzing intersections and drawing in thousands. Volunteers distributed water and food, medics tended to the injured. This was organized, determined civil action. The government's response was slow, and police attempts to disperse crowds only fueled the protesters' resolve. Tensions escalated as clashes broke out and tear gas filled the air. By afternoon, it was clear the police were overwhelmed. The government, desperate, called in the Nepal army. News of the army's deployment swept through the crowds, bringing a wave of apprehension. The army symbolized both unity and force. Its arrival marked a dangerous new phase. The people had made their stand. Now, the state was preparing its answer. Kathmandu held its breath, uncertain of what would come next. The line between protest and confrontation had never been thinner. Night fell on a city gripped by anxiety. The army's deployment sent a chill through Kathmandu. Crowds thinned, families urged loved ones home. Just after midnight, convoys of army trucks rolled through empty streets, soldiers silent and imposing. Their mission, restore order, not fight an enemy, but their presence was both reassuring and intimidating. The army established checkpoints and occupied protest hotspots, reclaiming the city without direct confrontation. By dawn, Kathmandu was under military control. Protest sites were deserted, banners abandoned, a passionate movement paused by overwhelming force. There was no dramatic clash, just a tense, quiet transfer of power. The city was calm, but it was a fragile, enforced calm. The grievances that brought people to the streets remained unresolved. The people's voice had been silenced, but only for now. Kathmandu waited, uncertain and restless. September 10th brought an uneasy calm to Kathmandu. Soldiers stood at every major crossroad, their presence a constant reminder of recent turmoil. The city's usual bustle was replaced by cautious, subdued movement. Shopkeepers reopened, relieved yet anxious about what military control meant for their freedoms. The army managed traffic and kept order, interacting politely but firmly with civilians. Their discipline de-escalated tensions, but the anger beneath the surface remained. The soldiers were a temporary fix for a deep political wound. The government now faced a critical choice: address the people's demands or risk further unrest. The world watched as Nepal stood at a crossroads. The story of Kathmandu's struggle was far from over. A new chapter in the fight for justice had just begun.